Folks, I come to you today with some news and with a bit of a thought experiment, if you'll indulge me. So first off, I'm going to go on a bit of a hiatus. I'm not sure for how long, I'm not sure to what extent, but I definitely feel as though a purge is necessary. A social media, maybe radio frequency, combination of the two, and then some is desperately needed. I'm sure a lot of you out there, like myself, get the occasional urge to fast, right? Fasting, as we know. If you don't know, you should know that fasting is extremely good for you if done in moderation, if done correctly, if done safely, with the proper education in place. It can be an insanely beneficial thing for your health. Fasting, that is. Then you get into fasting of the mind, fasting of the soul, right? Depriving one of one's senses in order to revitalize them and regenerate the novelty and the lust for life that we may lose, It's entirely normal for, at some point, from just, I don't want to say happenstance, but it happens to the best of us, that life inevitably loses its flavor, and it's not just going to come back on its own. We need to do something to kind of put the paddles on our life again and zap some life back into ourselves and awaken our souls. How would you even begin by doing that? Well, you do stuff like this. You ask questions. You listen and you trust God. Trust the universe. Trust nature, as we're going to discuss here in a moment. These I've all equated to basically the same thing, or maybe different aspects of the same thing, so it all makes perfect sense to me. But if that's a little confusing for you right off the bat, no worries, we're going to get you there as well. So keep listening, and this will make more sense as we go. Now, the main reason for the hiatus, man, there is just something about the internet. There is something about social media in general. There's something about the times and the zeitgeist. It's just not jiving with me. And my Merlin self keeps coming back and is pulling me away from all of this noise, all of this nonsense. And I don't mean to offend anybody. If you're in your prime and things are good for you in this day and age, fantastic. I couldn't be happier for you. But for me and for a lot of other folks, there's just a clash there. There's just an overwhelming sensation of being born in the wrong time or the wrong place, or just things not aligning the way that they should. I actually heard recently, as a bit of a side note here, that with the recent solar eclipse, that some people actually experienced a revitalization at the spirit level. And that something has aligned with them, and something has awakened, and something has they've ascended in a way, and that's fantastic. But for me, it sort of put things in a different perspective, where the overwhelming sentiment is one of letting go, and going back to what I was saying earlier, trust. Trust is my new favorite word. I see it everywhere now. I see the connection to it everywhere. I see how beneficial it is, not just for me, but for those that I talk to. They just, when you're going with the flow, you'll hear those words. I hear the word trust all the time now. Is it because I'm attuned to it that I'm hearing it, or is it more of a synchronicity thing? I don't know. Maybe it's both. But those are the kind of words that I listen for. Truth. When I hear truth, or what is true, or trust, right? Trust. I meant to say trust, but truth's another one. Truth's a tricky one, though, because truth is an opinion versus what is true can be backed up with evidence. But I guess that plays into... Anyway, the trust is so, so, so important. And it's beyond faith. It's a trust of the utmost pinnacle of what trust can be. And that's kind of what we're after, because that's what it is. So I don't know if that explained the hiatus at all, but that, for anybody who watches the channel, who's a regular viewer and a subscriber, thank you again for your support. But if you see a little dip there in the content, that's because we are going on a little bit of a hiatus. We will be back once the channel has been sort of rethunk in a way. We're going to rethink the idea of Maple Grove and come back, fierce and strong from there. But there's going to be something. There's going to be something new, and it's going to be our staple, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. And the best way to do that for me is to just go a bit hands off, step back. I'm taking a step back from 3/4 of the things I was working on before. A lot of projects, a lot of collaborations, a lot of spiritual stuff and business related things. I'm having to now take a step back. It's not just YouTube and social media in general. It's actually everything. I'm reducing down and becoming a sort of minimalist as far as what I'm applying my time and my energy towards, because I was overwhelming myself and I was starting another burnout, and that's the last thing I need. So, as you know, I am definitely a champion for the cause. For what cause? For any cause that I can get behind that is pushing the boundaries of truth, love, and peace in the world, and doing things differently and apolitically, is my preference. Obviously, if you know me and you know the channel, that's a big important thing for me. So yeah, that's basically the idea. And then the other thing is I've had a lot of banked content that was slowly being released on a slow burn over the last 2 years or so. And I've actually gone through all of that content. So now we've got all of the content from the old Maple Grove Productions channel, the old Maple Grove Farm channel, all those homesteading videos, all those permaculture videos. Everything has been re-uploaded now and released onto the channel. I think I've got one more video dedication to my grandfather on to be released, and then we're officially all caught up. So it's actually a good time to kind of take a step back and reevaluate things at a higher level and just kind of get an idea of what direction we want to go in the future. And then, like I said, we're going to get laser focused on like 1 or 2 particular projects that are going to be fully developed. I'm not doing this thing anymore. And I know it's not just me, that a lot of people fall prey to this concept of just sitting on a whole bunch of half-developed, half-baked ideas. I can't stand it anymore. I can't do that. So I want to bring 1 or 2 of those amazing ideas to fruition. And I'm talking all the way, with like tens of thousands of dollars of advertising being pumped into promotions and marketing. Like, no screwing around this time. So, but we're going to make sure if we do that, I've already got a good, 3 or 4 ideas in my back pocket that I've been sitting on, stuff that I think is really going to work, but I want to make sure that we're staying true to our values in the business. We're staying true to our ethics and our morals, and that we're going to actually try to make a difference in the world, that we're going to do what we can. I'm really steering away from this exchange of labor and time and property for other forms of capital or fiat currency or whatever. Like, I'm trying to get away from these cookie cutter ways of being and of seeing things, and these paradigms. It's time for a shift. It's time for a paradigm shift like never before, because you can go down that. I've said this before and I'll say it again. You can go down that other road. You can keep going down that road, the road that's been established now as it stands, at the political and legal society level. You can keep going down that track. That's your right to do that if you want, quite frankly, if you want to promote and be okay with slavery, that road is there for you, and keep following it. However, there's another road being developed right now, and quite honestly, it's already way ahead of the other one, even in its infancy, which quite honestly, it's been decades, so it's not really in its infancy anymore. But compared to this other side, which is still, illegal and public societies are still, the way we know them, relatively new, the last 100 years, 150 years? So that's still a relatively new idea. But there's already a way better road being developed, and it's far ahead now that we can place our confidence in it. And it's just so much more serving of the people, the way that this other path was supposed to be. Well, guess what? There's another road, right? Which, let's just call it the non-aggression principle, or voluntarism, however you want to call it. I don't like to label things or use isms, but you get what I'm saying. This is a much happier, more pleasant route over here. Now, this is the one that I'm going to take. You're welcome to keep taking that one over there if you want. Nothing good's going to happen if you ask me, if you keep going down that road. But meanwhile, the rest of us are going to be going over here, and we're going to be living our lives, and we're going to be having a good time. And we're not going to be experiencing many or any of these issues that you guys are going to face over there. So, I don't know. Does that further explain why I'm taking a hiatus? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I'm coming back with passion and creativity, and I'm going to give it my all, and you're going to see it. And it's going to be something unique, and it's going to be something special, and it's not going to be just me talking to the camera, okay? It's going to be something else. I'm taking Mark Passio's How to Be the True Media course. That's coming up in July. I've taken some other courses in the last year around content development, instructional design, voiceovers, and narration. I'm perfecting my craft. And that's not even counting the 10 to 15 years, pushing 20 years. Wow, actually, now that I think about it, it's been almost 20 years since I've gone down the production side of things. So I've been a producer now for 15, 20 years. It's just crazy to think about. Content development. Now with the instructional design, we're doing a lot more course development. The event management, the event production as well, virtual and in person, and then hybrid events that we've done. Like, it's really amazing when you stop and take a step back at all of these different accomplishments and these projects that have had rave reviews. I've been told time and time again that my service that I bring is really white glove, and I take that as a huge compliment, especially from people that are much more wealthy than myself, that have probably come to know the difference between a regular, run-of-the-mill production service and somebody who actually gives it their all. And that's something that you're going to see as well on the channel. It's going to be 100% effort given on everything, whether that's an episode, whether it's a new series, whether it's rebranding, whatever we decide to do, it's going to be taken quite seriously, and it's going to be done with love and with ambition and with the desire to help and to do what we can for others. I've got a really big announcement as well that I'm super excited about. I'm going to be coming out with a new course around all this stuff, so media and production services, all of the stuff that I've mentioned. To give you a little sneak preview here, it's going to involve all the things I mentioned: virtual event management, media and productions. There's going to be an entry level, intermediate, tier level, advanced, and then I'm going to get into more specialist stuff. So there's going to be a specialist 1 tier, specialist 2, 3, and you can go on to get certified through this academy that we're going to develop and open up. And these are all going to be offered for free. There's not going to be any cost associated with the courses whatsoever. It's all going to be free. And I'm following a similar approach for marketing as an inspirational guy, Brandon Joe Williams, who has really inspired me to kind of take a similar approach with a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. Possibly getting into law as well, but maybe for now just the media and production side of things. But of course it makes sense, being, what my moral beliefs and what I believe is true. It's going to be hard to steer away from anything law-based or anything freedom or truth, because I'm involved in a lot of those different circles as well. So that's a lot said right there. The last thing that I did want to touch on was the actually quite fitting natural law side of things, and how we approach this new road that I touched on a little bit, how we approach this from a perspective of natural law. Now, not to be too reductionist about it, but I think natural law is kind of redundant in a way. I think what we're talking about here is law with a capital L. Natural law is kind of not, adding the adjective natural is not really giving it that much more. But if we want to stop and think about, well, what is natural law? Natural, first of all, from nature, of nature. What is nature? I ask myself this question all the time, and it's a good one. I've come to my own conclusions, but it never ceases to amaze me how everyone's got a different definition for what nature is. Nobody really questions whether nature is a thing, even though you can't really put your finger on it, and everyone's got a different definition. No one questions whether nature exists or not. It's assumed that it does, but we can't really point to it. I mean, nature could be a planet just as much as it could be, a snail or a blade of grass. Nature can be something that's alive or not, right? It can be something in between, like a virus that's neither alive nor dead. I mean, nature is amazing. For me, nature is God. Nature is the universe. Nature is the force behind this existence, behind all the matter, the animation, the spirit in all things is nature. Now, I've heard nature, it's obviously what exists in the natural world. And there was a time when I didn't mind calling myself one ism or another, that I would have considered myself to be a naturalist or an omnist naturalist, whatever. I don't like those sort of labels anymore, so I don't use those terms. But it loosely explains my views on those such things. But, to say if something natural, it's of the natural world. Okay, so it's not supernatural. I don't know if that's really adding much to it. I heard one version of nature, which was kind of interesting, and it kind of goes against the conventional thinking of it, but nature is God, right? It's kind of what I was just saying, but different slightly, because it's saying that what is natural is what is of God. So that's a tricky one to wrap your head around, but essentially, what's natural would be anything that has been produced by God, has been created by God. And if you don't like the word God, that's okay. You can say the creator, or this is the thing, I have difficulty taking anyone who believes in the power of nature, but then is a hardcore atheist. I have trouble taking these people seriously, because you'll never, as I said before, question or doubt the existence of nature, or the power of nature, or the fact that the force of nature is a creative one. It's also a destructive one, but nobody can argue the fact that nature is a creative force, right? So that, hopefully, without having to break out any like dictionaries or etymology dictionaries or anything like that, we don't need to start doing that to just understand and delve into the meaning and the origin of words. We can figure that out. If we want to look at the history of the word, fine, we can take out an etymology dictionary, but I don't think that's necessary to fully understand something. At least give it a go yourself first to see if you can wrap your head around it without having to reference a book or ask somebody else. So what's natural is exactly that. It's of the natural world. It's part of the creative force in the universe, and it's not supernatural. So, okay. So you could say that natural law, right, and law being the rules and the principles that we abide by, those laws and those principles could be of God. That makes perfect sense, right? So when we talk about natural law, we're talking about a law that exists independent of man's law, right? So in other words, the legal society, the legal public systems, we can put those aside completely and leave them on their own road over here, this broken path, leave them over there and abandon them because they serve no purpose over here. If there's anything that does actually make sense to the other road, it's a redundancy because natural law has already taken into account everything that we need to know. It's God's law. It's a law that's governing human behavior apart from any control or influence that we could have on it. Of course, we have the ability to be in harmony with natural law or not. That's where we have free will. But our whether we want to play by the rules or not is not going to change natural law in any way. It's still going to exist. It's still going to influence itself ubiquitously across the universe to all sentient beings, regardless of how we feel about it. So I think that we can reduce, when we say natural law, I think that we can reduce it down to just law. Because when we talk about law, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about natural law. So it's a bit of a redundancy in itself, but it is different than higher law, And for a while I was confused at what the difference was between those two, but let's not get into that so much. But I think by adding another qualifier or another descriptor, we're not doing the law any favors. It's better to just keep it basic in a way and keep it what it is and not diminish it in any way with any unnecessary titles. So while yes, my version of the law is natural law, I don't need to say natural law or think of it that way, because to me, law is just innately natural law, right? You know what I mean? The law is very important, and it's something that cannot be ignored. It's not something that cares one way or another if how we feel about it. It's something that's going to apply itself evenly and ubiquitously, again, across the whole universe. It is not influenced or changed in any way by location or time and place. Homicide, whatever, murder is wrong, no matter where you are in the universe, no matter what time of day it is, no matter if it's the year 1832 or if it's 2017, it doesn't matter. It's wrong, and that's never going to change. So it really makes positive law or man-made law obsolete, because as Mark Passios pointed out, you can just boil it down to two words: don't steal. Those are the only rules you need to know. It's the same as the golden rule. It's the same as the non-aggression principle. It's the do no harm principle. It's all saying the same thing: is we have a right to our property, and no one else has a right to deprive us of that property or encroach or administrate that property without our consent. So really what we should be doing is getting to a place where the legal and public societies are of no consequence to us whatsoever in any capacity. That's where we want to be. That's our end game final play, is that, it's like a bratty kid. Just let them go and do their thing, and as long as they're not hurting themselves or anyone else, they're not a danger to anybody, then just leave them alone. Just ignore them. You certainly don't want to encourage that behavior, and by participating in these unlawful, fraudulent, just horrible services of slavery, let's call it what it is, by participating in them, you're giving it validity. You're giving it credibility. You're saying, I'm okay with that, and I'm okay with the fact that it exists in the world. Well, that's why we're where we are. That's exactly why we're here now, is because everyone, or too many people anyway, said that to themselves and to others and accepted this level of extremely low standards by which we live and judge what is acceptable and what is not in this modern age of it's really a travesty, because it's a modern age of the potential to have a way better system, a way better world of good health and living in harmony with nature compared to what we have now. So it's sad. For those reasons, I can no longer just turn a blind eye to it or continue participating in it in any way. I just can't. I can't, because at the end of my life, I'm going to have my creator to answer to, and they're going to ask why I may have made certain decisions, and I want to be able to say, because it was in accordance with natural law. And there's a lot of stuff that I can't say that for right now. So that is this video, whatever it was, whatever it may be, whatever it comes to be, I'm fine with it. If nothing comes of it, that's okay too. So it was a little bit on hiatus and a little bit on natural law, or just the law. And I guess to assert and restate, I guess, that I could not be any more committed to my role, to the good that I want to do in the world, the great work, the fortitude and the drive and the strength that I have to champion this cause. Like, unbelievably strong. Like, you'd be hard pressed to find very many other people that have the fortitude and the strength of will that I can have when I'm really passionate about something. So I'm going to bring it. I'm going to bring it all. I'm going to bring it all from a place of love and harmony and a deep desire to want to mend the errors of the past and to stop the addictive behaviors, the unhealthy addictions that we've just accepted and lived with for too long now. And the false authorities, the false human authorities that come along and dictate and tell us how to live. We can't do that anymore. I'm not. I haven't for a long time now, but the consequences of that are so much less important to me than the deep-seated need to go against it, or to do what is right, which is basically going against it. It's just a twisted, topsy-turvy world when you think about going against, or what we perceive as being law, which is really just what the legal society gets up to. Going against that is what's right. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. You have this 99% of people who are going one way, behaving a certain way, thinking that they're doing things the right way because of the way that they were molded and raised and groomed to be that way. But then you have this very small percentage, less than 1% of the population probably, who realizes and recognizes that the wrongs are actually being masked as the rights, and that they have enough sense to at least take a step back from that and do now what's right in their hearts, not what's right on some piece of paper, or what somebody else had to say about it, or what somebody in a costume said one time on TV. Like, you in your heart of hearts, deep down, you know what's right and what's wrong. And how often is it that we know what's right, we know what's wrong, we know it's wrong to proceed a certain way, but we do it anyway? That should never happen. Never. Never. That's a mark on your soul. And it's a huge deal. It's probably the biggest deal. So you got to kind of take a George Costanza approach to it, and that the opposite must be true, right? And I forget who said it, but a friend of mine one time said, whatever the government does, I just do the opposite, and I'll be sure that I'm doing it right. That's not far from the truth, to be honest with you. So that's where we're at. Again, I don't know what's going to come of this video, where it's going to be, how it's going to end up. I'm just kind of keeping things organic and going with the flow. But yeah, you can look forward to some amazing things coming up here on the channel. I don't know what it's going to be, but boy, I'm manifesting it, and it's coming. It's coming like a runaway freight train, so get ready for it. Thanks for watching, my friends. Take care. Hope you're doing well. Be safe. Take care. I'll see you next time. Thank you for your support.